Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and drop a like on this video. I'm trying to hit 100k subscribers on the channel by the end of the year, so your subscription would be much appreciated. Hot takes, let's do it. Why am I speed running this video? Fred VanVleet is very overrated. I specifically chose to put this take because I think Fred is one of the most properly rated players in the league. Like, he's even within his own fan base. Like, I think almost every fan base overrates their players to some degree or another, and I think specifically Toronto Raptors fans tend to overrate their players. I saw a tweet the other day of someone saying that they would not trade OG Anunoby for Zion Williamson, which, yeah, y'all overrate players sometimes, that fan base specifically. But even within their own fan base, I don't think Toronto Raptors fans really overrate Fred VanVleet, kind of at all. He doesn't seem like the most beloved among their beloved players, but he's definitely not overrated within that fan base. And I don't think anyone's overrating him on the outside, so I definitely disagree with this take. Matisse Thybulle will win Defensive Player of the Year this season. Positive or negative, I really don't think you should players with your opinions of them. Like, if you quote tweet something they say or do, sure, but like, I don't understand adding players. Like, are you trying to get their attention? Because they're probably not going to give it to you. Especially, this is fine, but especially if you're being critical of a player, like, don't at them. They're human beings. They don't need to see your shit. If they want to look up their own name and see that you call Jamal Crawford one of the most overrated players of all time, and then Jamal Crawford follows you on Twitter for like 2 hours to scare you and then unfollows, then that's perfectly valid and not a very specific example of something that happened to me. But just don't at players. As for the actual take, sure, he could have a case for it. The thing is, he's probably not going to play enough. And while he is a great defensive player in terms of putting up numbers and making plays, I don't know that his actual defensive impact is up there with like the top 10 or so defensive players in the league, but the dude can fill up the stat sheet with defensive stats, which definitely matters in the race. Luka is already better than Steph. No. What is Luka better at? He's not a better shooter. He's not even a better mid-range shooter. Like, he takes a higher volume, but he's not better. Not really a better finisher, a little bit sure. He's a better post player, I guess. Wouldn't say he's a better playmaker. I'd say he's a better passer, but as I have to reiterate all the time, passing and playmaking are not mutually exclusive to each, or not the same exact thing, basically. And then defensively, Luka's a little bit better defensively, but we're grasping at straws there. Rebounding, sure, but no, Luka is not better than Steph. And Luka is like my third favorite player in the league, but this guy's my favorite, so I guess that's where the difference lies. Prime D Rose would not be in today's top 5 players. I think that kind of goes without saying. I've seen a couple of takes suggesting that Derrick Rose and his like MVP Derrick Rose is sometimes overrated by people, and I do believe that's true. Like, I've seen people ask like 2011 Derrick Rose or 2016 Steph Curry, and it's like, dog, it's not a contest. But you know, he'd be in the top 10. I think, I don't know, because Damian Lillard is like number 10 for me. And I think Damian Lillard now, this is going to piss people off. I think Damian Lillard now is like in a similar-ish tier. It is worth mentioning, and this is something that Derrick Rose fans will tell you all the time, that prime Derrick Rose never really became a thing because, of course, his MVP season happened when he was 22 and he got his serious injury when he was 23. He would have improved. But some people take that so far as to act like he would have been the GOAT or something. So yeah, the discourse around him is weird. KarlAnthony Towns is better than Joel Embiid. I know Embiid is a much better defender, but Cat is way more durable. I don't know about that. I didn't even remember that part of the take, but I don't know about that. Can do 90% of what Joel can do in the post, but also act as a 2-guard. More importantly, he can fit with any roster because he doesn't have to be ball dominant. Winning narrative is everything. So first of all, I hate when people say winning narrative. Winning is a part of the game. If you want to say different rosters and all that, sure. But I think Joel Embiid has proven he can do more. And like, the difference in roster strength, in some years, sure, but not every year, has been unbelievable with Embiid. Embiid, I think, impacts winning more than KarlAnthony Towns. And that's me, the big KarlAnthony Towns guy. That said, I think I would say Cat is a better offensive player. I would make the case that the fact that he shoots 8 threes a game on 40% plus shooting from 3, being the best shooting center in the history of the game, or should I say 3-point shooting center, 3-point shooting big man. He's the best 3-point shooting one. That definitely, I think, would put him a little bit over Embiid for me as a scorer. Not to mention, I think that Cat is like a little bit better of a passer, and while I wouldn't say he could do 90% of what Embiid can do in the post, I think it's probably like 82, 85 maybe, if I'm being generous. So yeah, I would give Cat the edge as an offensive player. But defense is a thing, and at the center position, it's the most important thing. So Embiid being one of the best defensive players in the league, and Cat being just okay, I'm going to give Embiid the win there, even though I think Embiid is by some people overrated, and I think Cat is pretty much universally underrated. Can't go that far. The Jazz are sort of stuck in no man's land. They got a great coach, a great bench, and 2 good stars, but they aren't a serious contender unless Mitchell becomes a superstar or if they somehow trade for one. I will say to some extent with how much Donovan Mitchell elevates his game in the playoffs, he kind of is a superstar in the playoffs. Now, it's a small enough sample size that I wouldn't just outright rely on that being the case, but I do think that's pretty much the case that he is that in the playoffs. But that said, no man's land I don't think is the right way to describe it. More like they are stuck where they are, but you know, being stuck as one of the 5 best teams in the regular season, not a bad place to be stuck, I don't think. So I would, you know, the framing of it is a little more negative. To say that they don't really have the room to get much better is true. But I wouldn't say that they're stuck like it's in a way that's like a bad thing. RJ Barrett will have a better career than Anthony Edwards. I feel like it's too early to say anything like that. As of right now, I would say Anthony Edwards is a little bit, I would say I think he's going to be a good bit better of a scorer, while RJ will be a little bit more all around and definitely a better playmaker, although RJ's playmaking can like sometimes be good, sometimes not, and that's a little frustrating. But yeah, I could see it. I also think RJ's a better defender for sure. I think they're actually going to be relatively close if I had to guess. But I would give Ant just a slight edge just because I think there is going to be a notable difference in scoring there. Julius Randle will play worse than last year. After Atlanta exposed him in the playoffs, it's pretty clear how to play him on D, kind of like what happened to Pascal Siakam after the bubble where he got exposed too and then had a down year afterwards. It's worth mentioning injury played somewhat of a factor for that Pascal Siakam example. But that said, Julius Randle, I do think to some extent last year, like, here's the thing. I said all throughout Julius Randle's season last year that I was just waiting for him to calm down in terms of his jump shots. Like, not just the 3-ball where he shot like 40% on a decent volume, including pull-up threes, but also the fact that he was a lethal mid-range shooter. I was like, okay, at a certain point, Julius Randle's going to chill. He never chilled. The entire season, he was on fire. And then, come playoff time, he's defended well, but not so well that's like he was getting up shots that he did in the regular season, but then they just weren't going in. So I think there's a chance that there is like a 10%, a little bit one-hit wonder to Julius Randle's season that he had, where I would agree that I think next year, and really for the foreseeable future of his career, I don't think he'll be quite as good as he was that season, because it really just felt like the guy could not miss in a way that I don't think was reflective of his shooting ability, which I know doesn't really make sense. And if you say this is flimsy logic, it is, but this is what my brain says. So I just think I think what happened in the Hawks series was he came down to earth hard. I think in general, he will continue to be a really good playmaker and like a 20-plus point per game scorer, good rebounder, passable defensively, and he'll be more like just a good mid-range shooter instead of one of the best in the league, and a good 3-point shooter instead of like really good. So I think it'll be a little bit worse for wear, but I don't think it's, I don't think he's going to plummet. Also, speaking of that Pascal thing, the reason I mentioned the injury is a lot of people were giving me shit for him in my power rankings, where I put him below Sabonis and Randle. Thing is, they were like, oh, well, like people being mad at me for like saying I don't think that highly of Pascal Siakam. They were like, well, he was injured last year. I didn't think highly of Pascal Siakam the year before. I didn't think that high of him when he was playing with Kawhi Leonard. I've always been a little down on Pascal Siakam, but that's a side tangent. If the Bulls are a top 3 seed, Zach LaVine is an MVP candidate. I mean, it depends on at what point we're labeling him a candidate. Like, maybe he'll be 6th in MVP voting, but I think that's about as high as he would get, and I guess that makes you a candidate, but, like, not really. Gary Trent Jr. averages 25 and wins MVP. No. Not MVP. Most improved player. In order for Gary to go up to 25 points per game, like, in order to average that many points, you pretty much have to be good at more than just one thing offensively, and Gary Trent Jr. is pretty much only good at 3-point shooting. So, no, I would not say that Gary is going to average 25. Could he get to 20? Sure. Is he averaging 25? No, that's off the table. And most improved player? No. Also no to that, because I don't think 20. I think he averaged like 15, 16 last year. I don't know if that's a big enough leap. But yeah, he should have opportunity, so I agree he'll average more points for sure. But, nah, it's a stretch. But yeah, that was Hot Takes. Goodbye.